The Ever-Changing Sky. Look at the sky on a day without clouds. You will see the sun. It is bright and hot. Look at the sky again at night. You may see the moon and stars. They are also bright. People have been looking at the sky for a long time. It has surprised and amazed them. Some people have studied the sun, moon, and stars. They have learned that not everything in the sky stays in the same place. For example, the earth does not stay in the same place. It revolves around the sun. That means it goes all the way around the sun. It takes a little over 365 days to go all the way around the sun. That's a year plus 1/4 of a day. As the earth goes around the sun, it also spins. It takes about 24 hours for the earth to spin all the way around. That's the length of one day. Now, let's talk about the moon. First, what is moonlight? The light of the moon that we see at night does not really come from the moon. It comes from the sun. The moon just reflects the light. The moon does not always look the same to us on Earth. That is because of the way the moon moves. It revolves around the earth. It takes about 4 weeks to go all the way around the earth. As the moon moves, the amount of it that we can see changes. At the beginning of the 4 weeks, we cannot see the moon at all. That is because the side of the moon lit by the sun is facing away from the earth. The moon is almost between the sun and the earth at the same time. Next, we see half of the side of the moon lit by the sun. After that, we see all of the lit side of the moon. That is because the earth is almost between the sun and the moon. The part of the moon lit by the sun is facing the earth. Finally, we can see the other half of the lit side of the moon only. The 4 different ways the moon appears to us are called phases. The first phase is when we cannot see the moon at all. That's the phase of the new moon. Next is the phase of the first quarter moon. That's when we see 1/2 of the lit side of the moon. Then comes the full moon. That's when we can see all of the lit side of the moon. The final phase is the phase of the last quarter moon. Sometimes the positions of the sun, moon, and earth cause an event called an eclipse. There are 2 kinds of eclipses. One is a lunar eclipse. This happens when the earth moves between the sun and the moon. When this happens, the earth blocks the sun's light from the moon. The earth's shadow may keep some or all of the moon from being seen. The other kind of eclipse is a solar eclipse. This happens when the moon moves between the earth and the sun. The moon can keep some or all of the sun from being seen. Eclipses can be predicted. That is because the movement of the moon around the earth and the movement of the earth around the sun are steady. Their movement does not change speed or direction. As a result, scientists can tell when an eclipse will happen many years ahead of time. All right, let's take a look at our story questions. What does the Earth revolve around? So what does our planet revolve around? Let's go back to the story and find the answer for that. What does the Earth revolve around? Right here. Let's look in the third paragraph and see if we can find that. For example, the Earth does not stay in the same place. It revolves around the sun. So that means I'm going to come to this one and I'm going to select B, the sun. What does the author describe in the passage? So in other words, what is this story about? Is it about how long it takes the sun to revolve around the Earth? Number one, does the sun go around the Earth or does the Earth go around the sun? So pay attention to what the wording has. B, when the next solar eclipse will occur. Do they talk about that? C, how long it takes the Earth to revolve around the sun. D, the movement of other planets in our solar system. Did they talk about the other planets in our solar system at all? All right, let's move on to number 3. The phases of the moon are caused by the moon's orbit around Earth. Which details from the text support this conclusion? So in other words, how do I know that the phases of the moon, so the new moon, first quarter moon, full moon, and last quarter moon are caused by the moon's orbit around our planet? How do I know that? Is it because it takes 24 hours for the Earth to complete one rotation on its axis? Do they even talk about that? I don't remember them talking about that. Is it because a lunar eclipse occurs when the Earth passes between the moon and the sun, and Earth blocks the moon from the sun? This does not seem like we're talking about full moons, right? So a lunar eclipse is different than a full moon or no moon at all. C, the direction of the sunlit side of the moon facing the Earth changes as the moon revolves around Earth. That one seems really interesting. This one I kind of like. I'm going to put a little check there. The moon changes from a new moon to a half moon to a full moon. Well, that one seems right too. But which of these two do you think is probably a better answer? If you said C, you are correct. I would recommend C. Number 4. Now we're going into the solar eclipse question. What blocks the sun during a solar eclipse? Okay, let's look. It's right back here in this bottom paragraph. The other kind of eclipse is a solar eclipse. This happens when the moon moves between the Earth and the sun. The moon can keep some or all of the sun from being seen. So, what blocks the sun? That's right, it's the moon. And number 5, what is this passage mostly about? I'm going to let you answer that one. If you don't know, take an educated guess. You might be able to get rid of some of these answer choices just by reading through them. All right, let's take a look at the second page. Read this following sentence. It takes just under 24 hours for the Earth to complete one rotation on its axis a day. That's right. And guess how long it takes the Earth to revolve around the sun? Why did the author say that's right? Why do you think? Is it because the author is thinking that the reader has made a connection between the rotation of the Earth and the axis and length of the day? Is it because the author was talking to somebody else while they were writing the story? Well, I can tell you right now, that is not the choice. That's just a silly answer. because the author wants to reassure the reader. So they're saying, it's okay. That's right. Does that make sense either? Or is the author actually waiting for me to answer that? If you said A, you are correct. All right, number 7. Choose the answer that best completes the sentence below. The moon goes through different phases in a month. Blank full moon, half moon, and new moon. So what is it right before the full moon? Oops, I take it back. The moon goes through different phases in a month, but full moon, half moon, and new moon, including full moon, half moon, and new moon. First full moon, half moon, and new moon, or as a result, full moon, half moon, and new moon. So try inserting these words in here and see which one makes the most sense for you. I'll give you a second to figure that out. You can pause this video if you need to. All right, if you said B, you are correct. Question number 8. It says, when does a full moon occur? Well, to find that, I'm going to have to go back to the story. How do I know when I can see a full moon? Oh, right here. It's when I can see all the lit sides of the moon. Okay, so according to the text, a full moon according to the text, a full moon occurs when? So go back, find the 1, 2, 3, 4th paragraph, and find where it talks about the full moon, and that's going to be your answer. All right, number 9. Why can astronomers predict eclipses? Why can they predict eclipses? So this is once again on the second page, and of course now that I wrote number 4 there, I forgot that there was the first page, so technically that's paragraph 7, but I'm going to leave it alone. So let's go back to the second page of the story, right down here at the bottom where it says eclipses can be predicted. How do we know that? So how can scientists do this? So astronomers can predict eclipses. Why? So let's go ahead and take a second. I'm going to move number 9 right down here so we can see it a little better. And let's rewrite. We're going to use race to restate the question in our sentence. So we have astronomers predict eclipses because why? Well, let's go back and reread that last paragraph again. It says eclipses can be predicted. This is because the movement of the moon around the Earth and the movement of the Earth around the sun are steady. Their movement does not change speed or direction. So right here, because the movement of the moon around the Earth and the movement of the Earth around the sun are steady. So there's your answer right there. All right, and question number 10, our last one. Number 10, give 2 examples of how the sky is ever changing. How does the sky always changing? So we have 2 examples that were at the very beginning of the paragraph, but first we need to restate the question. The sky is ever changing by what? By what? So let's go back to the beginning. Okay. Or how about, let's see, the sky is ever changing because I could see the sun during the day, and at night I can see the moon and the stars. So the sky is ever changing by seeing the sun during the day, and the moon and stars at night. Okay. All right. If you need any help with this, make sure you ask for it. That is our questions for the ever-changing sky. Have a wonderful day. Make sure you turn this in on Friday. This is due Friday. Due Friday.